Hi everybody, just thought a pre-recorded video might help save time on Friday and also prepare you for the discussion. There's some detail in here that you need to be mindful of to help prepare. Okay, so what does monitoring effectiveness mean? Many of us have been through several developmental phases on this. The tactical group has worked hard on this. Essentially, it's what it means for children and vulnerable adults in Slough. We need at some point to ask ourselves specific questions like, are we delivering on what we said we would deliver on? Are the arrangements actually working? And are we actually doing what we're supposed to be doing in terms of working together and the Care Act? Okay, so don't worry, I'm not going to go through each one of these bullet points, but it's important to remember that the legislation is in the guidance in Working Together 2018 and in the Care Act 2014, which stipulates what safeguarding children's partnerships and safeguarding adults boards should be doing. And as you all know, in Slough, we're a combination of children and adults safeguarding partnership, and that seems to be proving very effective for partners. But this is just a reminder of the things we should be looking at. This part of working together is actually quite important because it talks about helping partners to come together, to look beyond their own institutional boundaries, and have a focus on children and vulnerable adults. Now, it's working together is around children, but this equally applies in the safeguarding partnership in adults and is referenced in different wording in the Care Act. But it is important that partnerships are able to do that with partners. Okay, this is just a reminder of what the Care Act 2014 expects of the safeguarding partnership. It's a bit of an oversimplification to suggest that it just can be condensed into 3 bullet points. Because the safeguarding adult partnership does an awful lot more than this, but it's just a reminder for you anyway. Now, the tactical group has been around now for nearly 2 years. It was set up following the new safeguarding partnership arrangements in 2018, had a major developmental curve in the first sort of 18 months or so. Some of you will remember we did workshops where we put the child and the vulnerable adult at the centre and talked about what it is we're trying to achieve. At the same time, the SLG was developing priorities for safeguarding in Slough, both children and adults. So an awful lot of work happened in the last couple of years. Now, during COVID, only 2 of those meetings of the tactical group were suspended. And in that time, we developed new COVID information sharing meetings so that we link directly to the SLG and identify the risks, etc. But we have actually agreed, even in that time, data sets for child protection, safeguarding adults, and child exploitation. Now, some of that data is narrative data, some of it is numbers. So we can talk about that later at the meeting. So the thing is, are the arrangements we have in Slough to monitor the effectiveness of partnership working, are they working? Are those arrangements actually working? And just a reminder, I know it's the second time you've seen the slide, but it is important that safeguarding partnerships have to be able to facilitate and drive action for agencies working together, give people the facilities to work together and make improvements, and also to make sure that practitioners have lasting, trusting relationships with children and their families. So, you know, is that working? Are we actually doing that in Slough? So let's think that through a bit. Okay, this is the substructure of the safeguarding partnership. It looks like a solid bricks, but actually it is very fluid and very flexible. Because the SLG having such a direct contact with the subgroups, particularly via the COVID information sharing groups, is able to respond and flex to changing need, I think. So, for example, the quality assurance arrangement around children and adults is already changing quite naturally because partnerships are driving that agenda. They want the quality assurance arrangements to be much more qualitative and much less data driven, although evidence is really important. Multi-agency case audits are being initiated in children, radically new model. And adult safeguarding, the adult QA group is similarly looking into that. The Safeguarding Children Education Settings group has not met for quite some time, partly due to COVID and partly probably because of new roles developing around partnership, children and people's partnership board, etc., that may be affecting that. So the substructure does change to adapt to changing need, but the core elements of the functions of these groups continue. Well, I think this is just reiterating the point I've just made, and some examples there of flexibility and resilience and stable leadership, which is our key characteristics of this safeguarding partnership. And what was really interesting was the March Safeguarding Partnership meeting, which it was presented with a sort of filtrated version of all the areas of practice that are difficult for people to deliver. And the Safeguarding Partnership, the big event, it actually looked at those areas and was able to resolve them fairly quickly, as advised by the SLG. And I think that's a really good example of how responsive people can be. Areas around the CE pathways, for example, are difficult for partners to work together on without the mandate from senior managers because there were resource implications, so for people attending new meetings. So that was really, really helpful. The Learning and Improvement Group meets just 3 times a year. That's chaired by Janine, who you all know. And that has a radical new approach to training, which is likely to sustain for quite some time. Interestingly enough, though, the one-day level 3 course is now being broken up into specific modules, so people can build blocks of learning over time without having to attend a whole day's training, but they come to 2 hours training at a time and they end up having the same competencies. So it's quite clever, and also we're going to be able to reach the same numbers of people as we did before. So that's a major achievement by that group. Overall, I think what people have done is work together very, very carefully and very skillfully to make sure that risk is identified really quickly and referred to the SLG. And this means that leaders across the partnership know what's going on. So that's quite a good thing, I would say. Okay, so don't be put off by this. This is a strategic plan, and a Word version of this has been sent to you via email with this YouTube video, because I wasn't able to move the text so that you could see the text in the left-hand column, but you need it anyway. And this strategic plan has come about as a result of all the work this group did for its last meeting. You remember we did lots and lots of presentations about what everybody was doing. That was presented to the Safeguarding Partnership meeting, who came up with all the actions that need to take place in the next financial year, and then that was gathered up and put into this strategic plan. So you can see things mount up over the year, pardon me. So you'll be able to hopefully have a chance to read through the strategic plan before you come to the meeting on Friday. I would suggest you do that because it's important. Okay, this is me just showing off that I can use this pointer thing, but essentially don't be too put off by this, but I just needed to demonstrate to you that the business goes on all year round and the material is amassed all year round, So if you look at this element here, that's quarter 1, 2, 3 and 4. Quarter 4 is there twice, I know not why. But just imagine that's the 4 quarters of the year. And then imagine you have a wall here, and that's this strategic plan, the strategic plan for 21-22. And you've got each of the priorities here. And the business around gathering the information for the annual report is being gathered all year round. Okay, so we don't just suddenly decide to do the annual report. This is being gathered from all the subgroups all year round. Okay, this wall here represents the aspects of the plan. Don't worry too much about that part of it, but that's just about what impact we're trying to achieve, what are we going to do about it, how are we going to know and make a difference, that sort of thing. Now this big grey wall here represents March 22, where all that material has been amassed, and we start working then on retrospectively looking at what we've achieved and prospectively looking at what we want to achieve in the future. And that's exactly what the last Safeguarding Partnership did in March. It looked retrospectively at what we'd achieved, and it actually provided the information that was needed for the strategic plan, you see. So the work is happening all year round, all the time. So it's not just an artificial, things aren't in these sort of tunnels. We are actually working globally on these issues strategically all the time. Okay, just want to draw your attention to this. It was sent with the email where we sent this video, so you've got a Word version there that you can read through before the meeting. It's really important you do that. All it is really is we've looked at the terms of reference, the original objectives in the terms of reference for the tactical group, and we did a summary analysis of where we're at with each of those. Have we achieved what we set out to achieve? And has the business gone elsewhere? Is there stuff we want to keep doing? What next really for the tactical group? Now, we thought this would help you think that through a bit more before the meeting, so I hope it does. One area that we want to draw your attention to is the joint target area inspections. We said we would do planning for JTIs, we call them in short, but of course COVID drowned all that out. But what we have done during the year is we've used the JTI evaluation criteria to directly inform the multi-agency case order that we're about to initiate. And also it directly informs the neglect strategy and all the work of the neglect tools and everything. So we haven't lost it completely. There's also a point I want to make here, which is about, you know, preparation for inspections always feels a bit artificial, doesn't it? I don't know what everybody feels, but I feel it always feels as if you're preparing your defences or something. And for me, isn't it better to use the criteria, to use the evaluation guidance as an indicator of where we should be at? And so implementing it in case audits and implementing it in practice, it's been looked at in the thresholds document. I mean, it's everywhere. So we've applied it very much at the front line without having a group to directly plan for. The Advancing Safeguarding Practice group in Children's is very well placed to consider JTI preparations as well. There's logistics around JTI that can be nightmares to manage if you're not forewarned. So that's certainly a piece of work that needs to be done. There's no doubt about it. The other areas I'll leave you to read and have a think about yourself. Okay, so if we want to think about the future of the tactical group and the next steps, logical step around monitoring effectiveness of the partnership, it might help us to think about, well, what's missing in the system. We have the beginnings of good case audits starting, we've got data analysis just beginning. That all needs to be embedded, and we have forums that do that now in the children and in adults. And we'll hear from them in due course. But the thing that people are saying that is missing is this opportunity to, you know, some headspace to think and analyse, and also to hear what's happening in partner agencies, you know, give them an opportunity to talk about the challenges they're currently facing at any level, strategic, you know, tactical, operational, but the general challenges that are going on and the achievements that they're experiencing. Now, they do write that up in the annual report, but there's rarely time to think through what the actual implications of that are, and to have a robust discussion about it. So I think perhaps it might be helpful for us to think that through a bit more at the meeting. Okay, so what's the next steps? So having achieved everything has been achieved, and having identified that some of the business, in fact a lot of the business, has moved into other areas, and having identified what's missing, we need to think about how we want to take the business forward. So just carry on meeting as we are, or devise a new methodology, as I've suggested earlier, around single agencies current challenging, so we can have an effective dialogue, a bit of a combination of both, or a hybrid, or, you know, you may have ideas for next steps. Now, it is important to recognise that this group has been very instrumental in delivering on a range of achievements, and it's made up largely of tactical level managers, tactical stroke strategic level managers, who rarely have an opportunity to come together and discuss with each other the issues that are important to them. So it's absolutely critical that some sort of forum continues. but it's how you want to take the business forward that's really important and will be the subject of the meeting. So thank you very much. I'll see you there.